After comparing the first games and then their sequels, there was only one place left to go. So over the past week, I replayed Crash Bandicoot 3 and Spyro the Dragon 3. And this was genuinely hard to judge because both games are genuinely great, but one definitely stood out. So the question is, which one of them holds up today? Starting with Crash, and this honestly feels like another step up from the second game, especially in presentation. You've got full cutscenes now, and I really liked that the villains actually have a bit more personality this time around. Like as you get towards the end of each warp room, the boss will start to talk to you in those load screens, which is a small detail but adds a lot. I also liked the addition of Uka Uka being Aku's evil brother, and it kind of feels like he's corrupting Cortex as the game goes on. He's literally wearing him as a mask, but I could be wrong with that. But even with these improvements, the actual story itself is still really simple. It's basically the same goal again: collect the crystals before Cortex and save the world. So while the presentation is better, nothing really changes in terms of depth. Spyro 3 goes in a completely different direction. There's a much bigger cast of characters this time, with Bianca and the Sorceress and all of the different characters you rescue along the way. It really feels like they were trying to build a more connected, story-driven adventure as the game progresses. There were actually a few moments that did genuinely make me laugh, and yeah, I still don't like money bags, but I think the biggest issue for me was the game constantly stops you. It feels like every few minutes I was being pulled into another cutscene or interaction, and it definitely started to get old pretty quick. That being said though, overall Spyro 3 has the stronger and more cohesive story, and it kept me engaged from start to finish. This round goes to Spyro. Starting with Spyro, and Insomniac went in a completely different direction than Crash. Instead of doubling down on movesets, they just added more characters for us to control. That said, Spyro's core moveset in this game is definitely the best in the series. The glide, the charge, the flame breath all feel perfect, and their weight and responsiveness are just right. But the additional characters like Sheila and Sergeant Bird, for example, just felt awful to control. It's clear that they just didn't get enough time to fully develop their movesets. After 2 full Spyro games to perfect the core mechanics of Spyro, these new characters just don't feel nearly as good. But moving on to Crash, the base movement here was already almost perfect from the previous games. What Crash 3 added were new powers as rewards for defeating the bosses, with the most impactful ones being the double jump and the death tornado spin. The double jump here feels pretty good, though sometimes I noticed it wouldn't register if I hit X again to do another jump, but it might have just been me. And the death tornado spin works kind of like a glide, and it can be combined with a jump to cover some serious distance. There's even a few sections where you can chain a slide into a double jump and then spin to basically bypass all obstacles. It only happens a handful of times, but it's noticeable. Overall, both games nailed their characters' movement, but Crash 3 is the only one that really built strongly on the foundation from the previous games. So this round goes to Crash. And again, I know that combat really isn't a main focus of these games, so I will try to keep this section brief again. But starting with Crash, we again have that solid foundation from the previous game, but with the new levels comes new enemy types, and each has its own type of weakness. Some can't be hit from their bottom half, and some are so large that you have to jump on their heads. But the biggest addition here in terms of combat is definitely the Wumpa Bazooka. Honestly, it felt a little out of place for me. It does open up some puzzles like shooting the exclamation point crates off to the side, but for the most part, I just found myself using it to make levels easier. Basically taking out enemies, which are the obstacles, before I even had to get close to them. But now for Spyro, and the core combat really hasn't changed. There are a few new enemy types, but there's really not that many. But where Spyro 3 really shines in the combat, I think, are the new playable characters. While the movement on these characters isn't perfect in any sense, the variety of combat styles they add puts Spyro slightly ahead in this section. So for the combat, I think this one goes to Spyro. Starting with Spyro 3, and for the most part, the levels are really strong. I really enjoyed the hub worlds a lot more this time, with more things to do like freeing new characters. The minigames weren't as in your face as in the previous games, but they were still there. The standout to me has definitely got to be these skateboarding minigames. It was really fun to replay these as an adult. And yeah, I do have to mention Moneybags again. I'm just not a fan of him paywalling progress or new characters. It just wasn't for me. But overall, I think the levels strike a good balance this time, leaning heading back towards its platforming roots rather than the minigames. It was a nice middle ground. But now for Crash 3, with the new warp rooms that span across time, we get a larger variety of different levels, from ancient Egypt to medieval castles. The platforming levels with Crash are just as good as the second game in my opinion. Where the game really dips for me is the vehicle and swimming levels. These feel absolutely terrible to control at times. The worst offender to me has gotta be the motorbike levels. It takes way too long to actually turn the bike, and I'm not sure at all if this is how motorbikes turn in real life, but it does feel terrible to use in the game. Overall though, both games have a few poor gimmick levels, but in terms of pure platforming and creative movement that builds on the previous games, this one goes to Crash. And again, this one's really tough because both of these soundtracks are absolute classics. But honestly, I think there's a pretty clear winner this time. I really like both, don't get me wrong. Crash 3 has those catchy, energetic tracks the same as before, but I think Spyro 3 did go to another level. The music here feels great. It actually feels like it belongs in each world, and it really adds to the vibe of the game. Some of the tracks are just really fun to listen to, even outside of the game. Crash's music is great for getting you hyped while you play, but Spyro's soundtrack really set the tone for each individual level, especially the first hub world for me. So yeah, for me, this one I think has to go to Spyro 3. I think the music in this game was just better. So, looking at the points, we've got a bit of a weird one. Spyro 3 wins for the story, combat, and music. It's easily the more ambitious adventure. But as I said in my last video, movement is everything. While Spyro 3 is a massive, charming toy box, it feels like it lost its focus from the first game. The new characters just don't have that polish that made the first two games so good. Crash 3, on the other hand, is a masterclass in refinement. Even with the frustrating bike levels, the core platforming feels like it's the absolute peak of the PlayStation 1. Spyro 3 might be the better experience, but I think Crash 3 has aged better. It's the one that kept me glued to the controller, and even today, I still think the original version has the snappiness that the remakes just don't have. Both of these games are classics, and if you had to pick one up right now, which one would you be grabbing first? Crash Bandicoot Warped or Spyro Year of the Dragon? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.